And those of you in the narthex to come on back in so we can hear Jeannie Trachsel talk to us about driving an 18-wheeler. We'll give it about another minute for things to settle down, and then Jeannie, come on up. We welcome you. Thank you.
What? Hello. As a classroom teacher, I find it hard to talk when everybody else is talking. Good morning to you all, those who are here in the sanctuary and those who are watching online. Welcome to Truck Driving 101. This is the 18-wheeler class, so you might want to take notes. Could be a quiz. I'm a professional truck driver, not a professional photographer, so the pictures you see this morning are not all lined up straight and don't have the perfect balance. Maybe they're not the right lighting, but it's hard to take pictures when you're driving a truck. And consequently, there are a lot of pictures that I could have showed, but I just don't have them to make a point. Many people have asked me in many different ways, how did you become a truck driver? Well, it happened because my husband, Jeff, had a job. The boss wanted to retire. And Jeff said to himself, who's going to hire a 58-year-old electrician? So he came to me one day and he said, out of the clear blue sky, how about you and I go to truck driving school, learn to drive a truck, and we could team drive and go all around the country. And I thought, that's a new idea. So I looked about schools where I could go, what would be possible. And Jeff's boss decided, he found someone who needed an electrician on a temporary basis. So Jeff worked for that guy, and his boss said, you know what? I am going to retire. And the guy who hired Jeff temporarily said, you know what? I like Jeff's work ethic. I'm going to hire him full time. So he did. And I said, well, what about truck driving? So he said to me, if you want to drive a truck, if you want to go to school and learn how to drive a truck, I fully support you. Go do it. So I found a school in Indianapolis. It was a 3-week course. Started at 6 in the morning and went as long as it took us to get through the material for the day. So we learned about reading maps, planning trips, where not to go during busiest times for traffic. We learned about different endorsements, driving hazardous materials, passengers, tankers. Those are different ways, different kinds of licenses you can get. We learned how to keep a logbook, which records every minute of the day for 24 hours. You can see there they've got your off-duty in the sleeper berth, you're driving, or you're on duty but not driving. So all of those different parts of it have. This is a federal document. It has to be filled out in black ink only, and you have to tell, if you are on duty, you have to say where you are for every 15 minutes of the day. Record that. At the end of the day, you add up each of those lines, and it should come out to 24 hours a day. There are lots of rules and regulations about that, but since this is just a general course, 101 course, we're not going to go into the details. Part of the class time was spent in the yard. Now, we weren't mowing grass and trimming trees. We were learning how to inspect a truck. Before you can move a vehicle, there are 130 things you need to look at. You're checking for leaks, you're checking for all sorts of things. You check under the hood, you check on the trailer. Now, that's a little weird looking thing. That little tiny thing is called the kingpin. That one's greasy, so I didn't actually measure it, but it's about 3 inches long and about that big around. And it is the only thing that's holding the trailer to the tractor. So it's a pretty important piece of steel. That kingpin is on the trailer, and you back your truck up to it with the fifth wheel on the back of the truck, back it up there, and it's what's called jaws that lock around that, and that's what pulls the trailer down the road. And you better hope it holds. We did backing exercises. Straight line, alley dock, serpentine, which is like S-curve, and parallel parking. Now, yeah, parallel parking with a trailer, fun. The exercises were set up on the lot with cones, so that if you hit a cone during your test, they take off points. So the object is to not hit a cone. And the instructor, Ralph, said, do not hit, those cones are my kids, don't hit them. He also told us you're not supposed to touch the mirrors. Now, after a couple of weeks, I was having a lot of trouble with the backing. I just, for some reason, couldn't get it. And Ralph would say, turn to the left. No, your other left, Jeannie. So I do know left from right, but I was having trouble with that. One day, one of the students said to me, Jeannie, you're never going to make it as a truck driver. And I'm thinking, I know, I'm having trouble backing. He said, no, you don't smoke, you don't drink, you don't swear, you don't like country music, and you don't have a tattoo. That was my reaction. It's time to change, it's time to change the image of truck drivers. One day, the instructor took us to an abandoned mall parking lot. There were no vehicles, except that one. No vehicles, so we were trying to learn to shift, because the yard where we were practicing the backing, there was no room for that. So we had a lot of room for, all you got light poles in an abandoned parking lot. So we would go forward, learning to get the rhythm, and know exactly when to shift. The engine will kind of tell you when it's time, but you have to know what you're listening for. Then we went out, this is in Indianapolis, so we went out on I-465, not knowing much about how to shift, and Ralph would say, don't lose a gear. So it was a little nerve-wracking. It was an adventure, shall we say. Now, to pass the test, it costs $150. I knew I only had enough money to do the test once. So I got to get it right. Some of the students would go out, take the test, come back, They'd failed. I thought, oh my, these guys know what they're doing, and I don't know what I'm doing. How am I going to ever pass the test? At the end of 3 weeks, I still wasn't getting it. So Ralph said to me, go home, find somebody who has a truck who will let you practice, and do that, come back and you can finish the course. So, okay, so I had that little bit of grace. Well, it took me a while. I called Leland Beery, and he let me ride with him. We had lots of hours in his red truck trying to practice. He would let me ride part of the time, and he would let me drive part of the time and give me opportunity to make my own mistakes, ask questions, and get the feel of driving a truck. I always appreciated the fact that Leland was brave enough to let me get behind the wheel of his expensive machine. When we would see something funny or awkward or strange, we'd say, when I write my book, I'm going to put that in it. Well, there were a lot of things to write about. When I felt ready, I went back, took the test, and there, I'm excited. I passed the test and got my Class A commercial driver's license in September of 2006. Then I had to look for a job. Who hires inexperienced drivers? Well, a lot of them they'll hire if you have 1 or 2 years of experience, but it's just like when you're driving a car, or getting a job. If you don't have the experience, sorry, we don't need you. So, yeah. A lot of trucks advertise on the back of their trailer that they need drivers, but I wasn't finding the driver. So I asked Leland, you need a driver? Well, he didn't right now, but after a while he said, yes, he could use a driver during harvest. So I drove from the fields to the bins and got some experience driving that way, but he still didn't hire me for a full time. But in January, then, he did have me hauling wheat to a flour mill in Michigan, and I drove his red 1999 Integral Sleeper Volvo. It had been part of the Trucker Buddy program. Now, that's a program in which drivers are vetted and given a teacher in a classroom of elementary students. He writes notes, letters, postcards, telling where he's been, experiences he's having, history, all kinds of stuff. And then the students use their writing skills and their reading skills and so forth, ask questions and learn about geography and history all around the country. There was a driver from Fort Wayne, Indiana. He was getting a new truck. So he said to this classroom of his trucker buddies, what color should it be? Well, no, I don't know what all the debate was, but they decided it had to be red. Okay, red's a good color. What else? Well, it needs to have flames coming up over the front, flames along the side. Okay, so we got a red truck with flames. What are we going to call it? Cherry Bomb. So the Cherry Bomb got a graphic artist, designed all the flames, got them all on there. And that truck was, was well known and recognized in the Midwest. I mean, I had truckers stop me and say, I've seen you on I-69, I've seen you here, I've seen you there. Well, it might not have been me, it might have been when Leland was driving it, but anyway, it had a history. And there's the Cherry Bomb. It was featured, it was featured on a Goodyear calendar. I think this was in 2002. So there are a lot of other stories about the Cherry Bomb, but we're not going to have time for that today. What do I do? Well, for 18 years, I've hauled agriculture products, drove every one of those trucks. Those belong to Leland. Lots of different brands, lots of different kinds of trailers. Now, if you want to learn about, that's truck driving 201. We can't cover that today. Now I'm driving. I learned how to shift, but after many years, we had an automatic transmission. So I learned how to drive that, and that's what I drive now. It's a white automatic transmission, 2018 Peterbilt. It's sitting out in the parking lot, wherever that is. And somebody told me this morning, you're taking up way too many parking spaces out here. Driving a truck is just like driving a car. Well, a very long car, but every truck has its own personality. It's got its own, it kind of develops a memory of how you drive. Now, there are lots of regulations and rules because the government says you can't do this, can't do that. Maximum weight is 80,000 pounds. That's 40 tons. So the truck, the driver, the fuel, the payload, all no more than 80,000 pounds. Well, early in my career, I was loading off a farm, and I had no idea how much was on there. You know, I could look at it. Yeah, it looks like it's about right. So I said, that's enough, cut it off. I was driving down the road, and little red and blue lights, zoom, zoom, zoom. The guy pulled me over. I had to go back to a weigh station, so he'd weigh me. He said, "You're overweight." I know, ever since I've been in the 5th grade. You're allowed, I said, well, in Indiana, you're allowed over, you can be 10% over the weight limit. He said, this is not Indiana. So 12 cents a pound, excuse me, 12 cents a pound for the fine. I keep a logbook. No, I don't. We don't keep a logbook because we're hauling agricultural commodities. And there's a reason for that, but we don't have time for that today. I keep what I call a rough log. It's part journal, part diary, part just places I've been, how long it took to get from here to there, what was the mileage, the distance, where I load, where I unload, all that kind of stuff. Not really exciting reading, but it's my own record. I also take note of the people I see, different experiences. It makes one day different from another one. In terms of safety, just like a car, you have to have a seat belt. And in a truck, you have 3 emergency triangles to warn people if you have to stop beside the road. We have a fire extinguisher, a neon vest with reflectors, and a hard hat. Now, Jeff fixed that hard hat for me so it matched the cherry bomb. The other thing we need to think about is taking rest breaks. When you're driving, you can get mighty tired. I mean, you're just sitting there, yes, but it's tiring work. So take a rest break, get out and walk, check your tires, make sure they're still all there, check your phone, send text messages only when you're parked. No phone if you're driving. Now, I think it was 2017, Beery Farms became Schroll Farms. So Zach Schroll became my boss. He's not bossy, but he's my boss. So he kind of inherited me as a driver. My typical day started long before that picture was taken. I'm usually up around 1 or 2 or 3, depending on what time. That's morning. Depending on where I'm going, because we get a schedule that says you're going here, it's going there. I don't have a scheduled time that I have to be somewhere. I don't have a dock time. But I like to get out ahead of the traffic. Okay. You have to do a pre-trip inspection. This shows the hoses and the electrical connections to the trailer. You have to check for air leaks, fluid leaks, make sure all your tires are inflated, your lights all work. I've heard, never had it happen, but if you have one light out, I mean, some trucks they're lit up like a Christmas tree. But if one of those lights is out, technically you can be stopped and fined. I don't know why. Anyway, check your lights. I go to Louis Dreyfus Commodities, which is a biodiesel plant up by Claypool. So I go there almost every day and get a load of bean meal. That shows 2 bays where we can be loaded. You open your tarp, the overhead dumps into your trailer, you're on a scale so they know exactly how much you've got. No more than 80,000 pounds. One time I had 80,020 pounds. You have to pull out, back, you have to dump out and back on the scales. 20 pounds? Yes, ma'am. So, Kathy was talking about paperwork this morning. We got plenty of that because every load has its own number, specific number for that load, and all your paperwork has to match. Dreyfus sends, let's say they're going to send a load to a place in Michigan. They'll send the load number, so when I pick up my load, that number is on the ticket, and it has to match what it says at the place where I'm delivering. So I drive to my destination, pull in over a pit. You see the crank there. Sometimes the meal doesn't really want to come out if it's hot or if it's humid, so it wants to stay on there. You have to give it a little persuasion. You can see what I call ribs that run along the side of the hopper. And it used to be we could use a mallet and tap on there to get it loosened up. Well, Zach decided he did not like the dents that he found in the trailers because people missed the rail. So he has a thou shalt not bang on the ribs, but we have vibrators to vibrate, shake it. It's dusty work, and I'll show you a picture here. That's from the top of the trailer, which does another thou shalt not. Don't climb the trailer because it's dangerous. I think Zach doesn't want Grandma to fall down and get hurt. But the meal is gravity fed into the pit, and it gets dusty. Sometimes, well, like I said, sometimes you just have to tap on the trailer. Okay, after I've unloaded, then I go to a farm somewhere in Michigan, or sometimes an elevator, and pick up a load of beans to take back to Dreyfus. Now the overhead they fill it, and then there's a door that they open and the beans just drop down. Gravity's a good thing, except this day. Gravity kept working till the door wouldn't go shut, so it just dumped all the beans that were left up there. And off to the right in a red shirt, you can see David Dowd. He rode with me that day. Sometimes we pick up somewhere where they have to load with an elevator or an auger. Now there are augers and there are augers, so it depends on how big the auger is to how long it takes to load. It could take 15 minutes or up to an hour. Now, I've learned while I'm waiting, I have plenty of time to write a chapter in my book. Lots of time to write a chapter in the book. You hope it's not raining because rain plus dust makes paste. And the beans want to stick to the paste. And I could write another chapter of a book about how you get the beans out without climbing on the trailer to sweep from the top. You have to climb in from the bottom to scrape it out. Okay, we got the beans, and now we're going to go back to Louis Dreyfus to unload them. During harvest time, you could have a very long line. I've counted up to 50 trucks at one time. This line is not quite that long, but you just have to wait your turn. When you pull in, they probe your load with a vacuum thingy and sucks out a sample of beans. They test for mold or sour smelling. They test for the weight. They test for if you're hauling livestock. When I was hauling wheat, I often had what I called livestock weevils. Once I hauled rats that came out of when I was loading beans. Anyway, you wait your turn, and when it's your turn, you go to the pit. They'll assign you which pit to go to, and now Dreyfus has 4 different pits. Once you get on the pit, it only takes 3 to 8 minutes, depending on how fast they're running it. And then you scale out, you get your paperwork, and you're ready, almost ready to be done with the day. I usually fuel at the end of the day. I don't have a picture of this, but our tanks hold from 75 to 100 gallons apiece. And most of the trucks have 2 tanks. So you can haul up to 200 pounds of fuel. Now, you have to keep in mind, you're only allowed 80,000 pounds on the road, so the more fuel you have, the less payload you carry. So I've learned how to do that. And I could be home by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or 5 or 6, depending on the weather, how many traffic glitches we have. Sometimes the traffic just stops. You don't know why. Just recently, the traffic was stopped. Couldn't tell why. I looked around, I took a picture. I was stopped, so I could take a picture of the long line up ahead of me. I never did find out what it was, but probably an accident. It just takes time to call an ambulance and so forth. So you're kind of at the mercy of what happens along the road. During harvest time, I've been called upon to haul from the field. That's a load of corn, sometimes soybeans. I don't usually haul much in harvest time anymore because Zach has 2 sons that help with the harvest. But once in a while I haul for other farmers. At the end of the week, you fill out a summary sheet that tells where you've been, how much your load weighed, what time you checked in, what time you checked out. Sorry about the shadow. And I was parked when I took this picture. It just tells whether it's tons or bushels, depending on what you're hauling. We haul in all kinds of weather, just like when you're driving a car, any kind of weather. There are a number of hazards, excuse me, number of hazards on the road. Rain, fog, wind. You get wind blowing against that trailer when it's empty. You want to make sure you're keeping it on the road. And then we have snow in this part of the world. This particular day, and again, I was parked when I was taking it, but I saw the back end of that trailer for a long time. It took 2 hours to go 7 miles. That's just the way the day was. It turned out that there were accidents that closed 2 major highways, one of them in both directions, and all the all the emergency traffic was going on the road I was on. So that's just one of the things you deal with. Ice is another danger that is difficult. My best advice for driving on ice is don't do it. Park it, sit on their side of the road or on an exit ramp or somewhere safe until they come and treat the road, or till it's spring thaw, whichever comes first. On a dry road, it takes a vehicle going 55 miles an hour, it takes the length of 3 football fields. Now you can do the math, that's a lot of feet. 3 football fields on a dry road. So on icy roads or wet roads, it's going to take longer. Then another thing we have is whiteouts. You can hardly see the exit sign. Back there, I pulled off on a ramp for a good reason. I had been driving 10 miles an hour. I hoped I was in my own lane. The only reason I knew I was still on the road was because every once in a while I saw a post beside the road. It had a reflector on it. So about every 3 truck lengths, you could see that. And I heard something. I looked in my mirror, and the mirror wasn't there. So I drove blind to the next exit, which is about 3 miles, pulled off, and that's where this is. I got out and took a picture to send to Zach to say, hello, we lost a mirror. The mirror looked like it's still there, but it had been shoved up against the hood, and actually I couldn't get the door open very well because I had to keep bumping against it to nudge the mirror so it would let me get out. The impact was on this kind of mirror, that's what they call a Hollywood mirror. You got a regular one at the top and a convex at the bottom. It must have hit the convex. It was cracked beyond recognition. The top one had cracks in it. I didn't see it happen, so I don't know exactly what went on. But I couldn't get the mirror. I'm too short to reach up there and get it back. So I drove blind for 40 miles in snowy weather to a place where I was delivering. And 2 drivers there helped me to straighten it out so I at least see down the side of my trailer the rest of the day. That's just a danger. I mean, it doesn't happen every day, thank goodness. Another driving issue is sleepiness, getting drowsy. So I sing, I talk to myself. But the best thing to do is just pull over and take a nap. Heavy traffic is a problem. That's why I go early in the morning so I don't have so much traffic. You got accidents, you got oversized loads you have to wait for, construction zones that are narrow and dangerous. 45 miles an hour, there's a reason for that speed limit. Rough, uneven roads are like driving on a washboard. It's hard on the truck, it's hard on the suspension, it's hard on the tires, it's hard on the driver. Rough roads are reality, though. Then you have to look out for animals, the 2-legged kind, the 4-legged kind, day and night. And debris, most of the debris is not quite that big, but I'm sure you've been on a road where there was chunks of rubber tires that have blown off trucks. Let me tell you something. If you're ever driving beside a truck, you're passing a truck, and you hear bloom, 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 get out of the way. It's likely they're going to lose the retread. You don't want to be in the way. Because I had it happen once, and that's why that's on the side of the road. The most dangerous thing on the road, other drivers of what I call 4-wheelers. I'm not talking about these little toys that people tool around in the fields, and I'm talking about cars, trucks, vans, SUVs. Drivers don't seem to have a clue that the truck they're going past is big. It's heavy. It can't stop on a dime. So it's just a danger. Speeders, gonna save time, I'm gonna hurry up and get there. Well, let me tell you, when you're sitting beside the road with the little blue and red lights going around, you're not saving any time. You're gonna be there half an hour to an hour waiting for the officer to run all the paperwork, like Kathy was talking about this morning. Also, I did some research. For a 3-week period, I drove at a maximum, where it was legal, a maximum of 65 miles an hour. 3 weeks. Kept track of the miles, kept track of the time, and the gallons that I used. Then I did a 3-week period driving only 62 miles an hour. Same thing, maximum where it was legal. What I learned was, when I did the math, that I can go 1.5 miles further if I slow down for 3 miles an hour. In other words, I used less fuel per gallon by 1.5 miles. Now, I had Jeff check the math, and he came up with the same number, so I don't think it was my math. Another problem with drivers is that they're inconsiderate. Me first. I'm entitled to the left lane. Move over. Sorry, I hope none of you are like that. Then we have tailgaters, and I could write a whole chapter in my book about tailgaters. I don't know what's so attractive about a trailer, the back end of a trailer, that they want to get that close. I'm sure you've seen this on the back of a semi, a little sign that says, "If you can't see my mirrors, I can't see you." It's true. Believe it. Give some space. Back up. I tell you, one time, I was driving at 65 miles an hour, probably, on the interstate. And there was a guy back there. I couldn't see him. I could see his shadow. That's all I could see. But I knew he was back there. I slowed down again, slowed down some more. I was going 45 miles an hour, and he's still hugging my tail. Now, I don't know why. I pulled off on the side. I said, if he's going to be, I don't want to be in an accident. If I put on my brakes, he's going to be up under my trailer, and that's going to ruin his whole day. So, don't follow close. Then we got the people who hover. They're going to go around you, but they're just taking their time, and they're hovering, and they're in my blind spot. Now, we all have blind spots. You drive a car, you've got a blind spot. Trucks have a bigger blind spot. I couldn't see him. You've seen that on the back of trucks, I'm sure. Many times, trucks need more space to turn than a little car. That's some physics thing. I don't know what that is. Two things cannot occupy the same space at the same time. So, if I need to make a right-hand turn, I may be in the straight-ahead lane. I may be edging over into the right lane just to let you know, hello, I don't want you passing me. But even if I'm going straight, never, ever, ever pass a truck on the right side. Here's something to remember, and this will be on the quiz. The left side is the passing side. The right side, suicide. Another thing is emergency. People are on the side of the road with their emergency flashers going, move over, get out of their way, give them space because they need it. Another problem with drivers, all sorts, are distracted drivers. I was in Michigan making a left-hand turn. I was a Michigan left-hand turn. They have a left-hand turning lane you go past the intersection. You got an intersection, you go past the intersection to make a legal U-turn. It's set up that way. I was in my left-hand lane waiting for the oncoming traffic to go past so I could go around and make the turn into the place where I was delivering. Wait a second, that debris was not on the road when I pulled up here. So when I made my turn, I was thinking about going over and picking it up, and a lady pulled in behind me. I thought, oh, she's going to help me pick it up. And she got over, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to hit your truck. I'm sorry too. She didn't fare too well. The mirror was hanging down. And so I called 911, officer came. He checked with her, checked with me. He said, well, she says she wasn't distracted, but it's hard to not see a semi. There's the damage to my truck, very little. Scraped the side of the tire, and that little dink there by the mud guard. The sad part of it was she had just had that car fixed. She'd hit a deer or something, and she'd just had it repaired. Now she's going to have another repair job. Another thing that we have to think about when we're driving is that we have state troopers on the road. Yeah, we got to give them space. They're doing their job. But you don't really want to see those red and blue lights going. Now, sometimes they have random inspections. So they pull a truck over to the side and see if you're legal, see if you've got the right amount of tread on your tires and your lights all work and all that stuff. Well, one time, I wasn't pulled over for an inspection. I was pulled over to rest. There was a wide space that was supposedly going to one day be a ramp for a rest area. And I pulled way over, and I was going to take a nap. And before you know it, on my side door. And then I saw the lights. I thought, what? Okay, I'm not speeding. So he said, well, you know, you can't park here. I said, well, I was sleepy, and I could see that I was weaving around in the road, and so I thought it's safer to stop. He said, well, you need to stop, either stop at a rest stop or stop at a truck stop. They didn't make one right there where I was, so I couldn't. So he gave me a warning, a verbal warning. Parking on ramps is a no-no. Another time I was driving with, my headlights got real bright, and then they went back to what I thought was normal. And I noticed in the median was a cop car. So I drove on by, I'm not speeding. And then he followed me and stopped me and said, do you realize your right headlight is out? It wasn't when I inspected this morning. So then he said, you got 24 hours, he gave me the paperwork, 24 hours to fix it. Well, I'm not going to fix it, but Zach did. And another time, on that very same stretch of road between the state line north of South Bend to Napier Road, some of you might know where that is, about 25 miles. I passed an officer in the median, and I checked my speedometer, and I was doing 63. At that time, it was a 60-mile-an-hour zone. So when I saw the red lights, I thought, okay. I pulled over, and he said, I clocked you at 67 miles an hour. And I thought, maybe I need my eyes fixed. When he gave me my paperwork, you know, your license, your insurance, blah, 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 he said, you realize this is the third time I've stopped you? I thought, we gotta stop meeting like this. I didn't say it. You don't get sassy with these guys. Another thing is weigh stations, because trucks are heavy. They want to weigh you once in a while. And all trucks must enter. So I drove in over the scales. A red light turned on, and then on the loudspeaker said, "Pull around to the back." I don't know what I did. I was empty, so I knew I wasn't over the weight limit. So I said, all right, so I pulled around behind, and he did an inspection. He was up under the tractor, the trailer, he had the hood open, do your lights, blow your horn. He did the whole 9 yards, 130 different things he had to check. So when he gave me the papers back, I said, just out of curiosity, why did you stop me? You were the third red truck. I should have driven the blue one that day. Sometimes your vehicle will malfunction. Now, my mechanical knowledge will fit in a thimble, probably with room to spare. But when I see that on my dash, I pay attention. Because really, it will put you down to 5 miles an hour. And if you're on an interstate, that's not legal. So that's one of the things you have to keep. Even though you're checking your truck every day, morning and night, you want to make sure that it'll tell you when there's something wrong. Another thing that can happen is your tires can go funny. That one's not going anywhere except to the junk pile. It blew, and it blew the insides out. So you can get, in order to get roadside assistance, it's going to cost a lot of money, but that's why you pay attention to your vehicle. Of course, I called Zach. He knows what to do. He called somebody to come and replace the tire. We've got pollution just like every place else. That was exceptionally bad, but I see it all the time. There are many tight places that I have to go. Some of it's on the roads, but some of it's when I'm loading. If you'll notice, there are only a few inches on each side of the tires. You may not notice that it's 2 feet above the ground level. So pay attention. Or when I'm unloading this particular place, you can see how close the trailer is to that pipe. It's just as close on the other side. And I've never hit anything in there. Why do I drive a truck? Well, I like it. I enjoy it. I enjoy the driving. It gives me time to think. I have lots of time I talk to the animals. Dear, don't cross in front of me. Or I talk to myself. Jeannie, put the cruise on so your foot doesn't get you in trouble. I also talk to other drivers. They're not going to hear me, but it's like, okay, buddy, just wait a little bit. I talk to God a lot. There's a lot of time to pray, and there are a lot of things to pray about. I've probably prayed for everyone in this room at one time or another. I enjoy the people I meet. Never a dull moment. I enjoy my working for the guy I work for. I enjoy the wildflowers, the trees in bloom, the trees where the leaves are dying. I appreciate Jeff's constant support. He takes care of everything at home. He takes care of the yard and the garden and many of the household chores. It's so nice to come home, open the back door, and I can smell supper cooking, and it's wonderful. Thank you, Jeff. There are physical issues. Now, I'm going to answer a question that you may think is too delicate to ask. What do you do about the restrooms? Well, now, I could write a book about restrooms and porta potties and how clean or how dirty they are, but I'm not writing a dirty book. A lot of them. I always have to wonder, who cleans up after these guys at home? I don't get it. Anyway, other issues with truck driving causes TB. Didn't know that, did you? Causes TB, tired back. There are rough roads and your body just takes a beating sometimes. It's helpful to have a good seat. Your knees hurt sometimes. There are other things from sitting for long periods of time. You get spider veins. I do get exercise. Now, I can't run laps in the truck, but I walk laps around the truck. First I go clockwise and then counterclockwise. I can do standing push-ups against the truck. When I'm fueling, I've often wanted to go in and see what they see on their camera, because I'm doing some very funny-looking things out there. Another question I get is, well, what did you do all day? And I just sat around. And the other question is asked many different ways, and maybe you've asked it. Just when are you going to retire? Do I look like I need to retire? Do I act like I should retire? Okay, don't answer that. I hope I'll know, excuse me, I hope I'll know when it's time to turn in my keys. I see a lot of funny things along the road, interesting billboards. One favorite one of mine is, be kind to the earth. It's the only planet with ice cream. Or there are other amusing, it doesn't take much to amuse me. This is my little car, and long years ago, I had that sign made. My other vehicle's an 18-wheeler. Or I see interesting paintings on buildings. Nice. Or nature does its thing. That's frozen slush on the wheel. I always hate it when people say, you can't see it in this picture, but this is Mooville. And I stop at Mooville whenever I'm around. If I need milk, I've stopped for ice cream. Now, let me tell you about their ice cream. Their scoop of ice cream is about that big. And it's good, but I can't afford to stop there every day. Zach says that he thinks the only reason I like to still drive for him is because I can stop at Mooville in Nashville, Michigan. Oh, I'm not sure you can read that. Load it like a... It's something about drive it like a freight train. Sorry, I thought that would show up better. I don't have a picture for this, but one funny thing I saw was on the back of a septic cleaning truck. You've seen them driving around. It said in bold letters, "No one sticks their nose in our business." This is my fourth career. I taught school, took care of children in our home, had an embroidery business. Now I'm driving trucks, and I think maybe for my fifth career I'm going to go to diesel mechanic school and learn how to fix a truck, because I don't know anything about that right now. In 18 years, I've probably driven 2 million miles. All those pink spots are places that I've picked up or delivered in that particular part of Michigan. I got lots of pages in my atlas that have just as many chicken pox spots. I've delivered or picked up in over 300 different places in 4 states. And only 3 times since I've been driving the last 18 years have I got up in the morning and said, I don't want to drive today. The first one was I was yucky sick. Well, I drove anyhow, but I didn't really want to. The other 2 times were when the weather report was such that I didn't want to be out in that nasty, it was a snowstorm kind of thing. I didn't want to do it, but I did. Now, many people in this congregation have ridden with me. I see some of you out there. 5 have died, not from driving with me, but when Cleona Barr rode with me, she was 73 or something like that, and I thought, well, I can take an old lady in my truck. I'm 79, still going. I've learned a lot by taking the familiar routes. You know where the potholes are, where the police hide, where the... people have asked me, do you want to own your own truck? Well, that's not my truck, but I've driven it many times. Do I want to own my own truck? You have to pay for insurance, license, upkeep, maintenance, fuel, repairs. Then you've got worries about what's happening to you on the road. No, thank you. I don't want that. I'll drive for somebody else and let them worry about that. If I had it to do over, would I? I wouldn't want to miss the fun and the adventure, opportunities to write chapters in my book. So I like my job, I like my boss, I like driving for Schroll Farms. And I feel well blessed for all the years that I've had, driving for Leland and driving for Zach. I don't have any regrets. Here's something. If you want the adventure and the fun, come ride with me. I'd love it. I don't know when we started because we got started late, but I'd take some questions if you have those. I tried to answer your questions before you got a chance to ask them. Bev has a question back there.
Since you don't smoke or drink or swear or have tattoos, how do you interact with other truck drivers?
They're people. They're just ordinary folk. Some of them are doing a job because that's all they've ever done. Some of them do it because they like it. Some of them, I know there are some women who are driving trucks because they were teen driving with their husbands. The husband died, and they still needed a livelihood. They knew how to drive, so they just continued. A lot of times I don't get a chance to talk to drivers because I'm driving. But I have, out at the trading post here, which used to be Butterball's here in Manchester, you can fuel up your truck. One day I had a guy pull in. He pulled in around, parked his truck, came over and talked to me. He said, "Oh, glad to see you as a woman driver. I don't know how many years you've been doing this, blah, 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 blah. And do you like your job?" I'm like, "Yeah." Then he got back in his truck and drove off. He just wanted to talk to somebody, I guess. But some people out have stopped there and asked about, "I've seen you driving all over northern Indiana," because they recognize the cherry bomb. Any other questions?
Do they still have CBs in the truck? And,
They do.
do you have a CB handle?
I have a CB in my truck. It doesn't work. I think I find it a distraction. Early on when I was driving, which was several years ago, I could hear conversations of other truckers. They may be driving together, in tandem or whatever, or they may be just happen to be on this late at night, early in the morning. They don't have anybody to talk to, so they're just on there yammering. Once when I was down at Peru, I heard a driver, I saw it actually happen. One driver cut another driver off, and they were both headed toward Wabash, and they were yakking at each other, you did this, blah, 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 and they were not happy with each other. So I just turned the CB off. And then I was down the road way long ways, about to Wabash. I turned it back on, and they were still at it. I don't know, it's 15, 20 miles. I don't know what the distance is. But they were using it to vent, I guess.
Yes, I heard that China's not taking soybeans. Is that going to interrupt your business, driving truck?
Well, I don't know. Louis Dreyfus takes local beans and they process them locally, so I'm not sure that that will be affected much. I mean, I'm no expert on the economy, so I have no idea exactly, but I think, as far as I understand it, the tariffs with China and all are not going to affect particularly my driving.
I just want to mention that your daughter Jessica has been watching in this morning and mentioned in the chat how proud she is of you and that she's gotten to ride with you several times. And so I'll reiterate your invitation if people want to ride with you. And I also wondered if you're offering tours since you've got the truck parked out there this morning.
I can, as long as you realize it's a working truck, it's not a show truck, and I didn't clean it. I did dust the dash one day this week, but you can dust it one day and it's dusty the next. It's just a dusty job, but somebody's got to do it, so I do it. Yes.
And we are past an hour here, but if Bev, you've got one more question, maybe you'll be around to talk to later.
This isn't a question, it's an expression of appreciation, Jeannie. I think you started your ministry of writing cards to people in the congregation when you had time to do that, and many of us have received those cards, and I just appreciate that you spent your time in prayer and writing cards to us.
I'm still sending cards. I want to express my thanks to Joy Stifler, who helped put the slides together. She knows that we had 3 times that many slides, but we had to pare it down because just not enough time. And a special thanks to Leland for all his patience with me when I was in the driver's seat. He's got stories too.
I feel partially responsible for all this mayhem. The Cherry Bomb was my favorite truck. It had a C-15 Caterpillar engine, 500 horsepower, 13-speed transmission. Jeannie rode with me for a week or so. I finally, on the way home from someplace, I pulled off to the side of the road, put the flashers on, and I said, "Are you ready to drive this truck?" She said, "Yes." She's very conscious of speed, and she told me that the trucks that she had at this driving school were old and worn out. She'd never driven anything like the Cherry Bomb. 500 horsepower, 13-speed transmission. Before she ever got into top gear, she was exceeding the speed limit.
Sorry.
She said, "Oh my goodness." But it's been a long, that Cherry Bomb had to have an overhaul job at 750,000 miles. And I think it went another 750,000 before Zach sold it to somebody out of state. But anyway, I remember when Jeannie, we had open mic back in those days at church. She announced that she was going to go to truck driving school. And the reaction among the people of the congregation was something like this.
Well, I'm thankful for all of you. You can sign up for the next truck driving class.